Alright guys, decided to make another episode. I'm jumping the episode around a little bit because I need more time in some of the topics that's in the previous episode, like perfect pitch, which is very, very hard to find for the research. So, welcome to episode 57 of ADHD superpower. Today's topic is on ADHD and sensory overload. People with ADHD can experience sensory overload. It occurs when something overstimulates one or more of the senses. ADHD is a common neurodevelopmental condition in which the individual has trouble paying attention to the surrounding, controlling their impulse, and managing the energy level. Although sensory overload can affect anyone, it's most common in people, particularly in children with ADHD as well as adult ADHD. Anything that stimulates multiple senses can lead to sensory overload, and that includes musicians, and that's why it takes me a little bit longer to research for, because there's really not that much evidence research out there for people with perfect pitch, PTSD, and ADHD. So let's move on. The sensory overload occurs when something, usually an environmental factor, overstimulates one or more of the five senses. Different stimuli can compete for attention, making it impossible for the brains to process the information it receives. When this happens, the person experiencing sensory overload may overreact to a situation by lashing out or underreact by shutting down. And this happens because we have ADHD has emotional dysregulation, and it's very, very hard to control. Sometimes it can be fixed, like me, it can be fixed, but you can use it to your own advantage. Anyone can experience sensory overload, but it's more likely to affect people with ADHD, PTSD, sensory processing disorder, autism, musicians. The symptoms of sensory overload with ADHD vary widely, so it may be difficult to recognize the signs at first. Depending on the person and situation, people may overreact, underreact, or react to inappropriate times. They may exhibit certain behaviors such as higher or possibly lower sensitivity to the surroundings. ADHD makes it difficult for many people to regulate their emotional actions, even in relation to things that may seem simple to other people. When people with ADHD become overstimulated, they may be unable to focus as the environmental factors or sensations crowd the brains. Moreover, people with ADHD and sensory overload may be unable to quickly switch gears in terms of an activity in which they are taking part. I disagree with that one from the research that I did, because I just mentioned a complete contradiction to inattentiveness and impulsivity, which can easily be switched geared in ADHD people. So I'm just gonna what the author takes as face value, that some people cannot switch gears in terms of activities that easily, but most ADHDers are able to. They may also find it challenging to register new stimuli or changes in the environment. This could lead to a feeling of being overwhelmed when something unexpected happens. After encountering a trigger, some people with sensory overload cannot function properly until their senses normalize again. Like me, I have anger management issue because of my mom. And it's very, very hard to control when she starts talking. I just want her to shut up, and it just heightened my emotions to the max. And, sometimes it makes me scared of my actions that I might take if somebody triggers me with PTSD. So somebody help me out here also. Just like I'm helping you out, I hope. Okay, so they may experience a kind of physical pain, even from everyday things such as a light touch or being able to hear several ongoing conversations and different sounds together. So the treatment and management of ADHD can be physically and emotionally exhausting, especially when sensory overload is involved. Although there's no cure, individuals with ADHD can lead a healthy, full life with the right treatment of medication mixed with therapy. The following may help people with ADHD manage sensory overload and other symptoms. Be proactive. Watching out for triggers. Learning self-calming techniques. Devising coping mechanisms. Anything that's from listening to a song, to a counting backwards from 30 to going for a walk, anything that can help reduce the impact of sensory overload. Establish your routine, consulting a primary care physician as well as psychiatrist or psychologist. Creating a calm environment, introducing new activities in the right ways. And you can read the details of those in the description. People should also remember that although ADHD produces some challenging symptoms, it can also come with beneficial traits and characteristics. So, let's summarize this. Sensory overload happens when the information from at least one of the 5 senses overwhelms the brain's ability to process. Common reactions include extreme irritability, agitation, and especially with ADHD, fight or flight response. Individuals with ADHD or other neurodevelopmental conditions have a higher chance than other people of experiencing sensory overload or another sensory processing disorder. Although ADHD is a lifelong condition, people with it can prevent and manage sensory overload with certain treatment techniques as well as the right support and medication. Thank you very much. See you next episode.